Hi, I'm Yinka, and this is The Hurt Locker, a podcast where we open a door into men's mental health. Come and go.
I'm going through a difficult situation trying to fight to be in my son's life.
Do you see him often?
Nowhere near often enough. I was so depressed.
When we talk about giving up, I'm reading between the lines, and was that to end your life? You're listening to The Hurt Locker, the podcast that opens a door on men's mental health. And tonight's guest, we have Harrison Paul. Harrison, welcome to The Hurt Locker.
Hello, Yinka. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm very good, actually. I'm very good. I'm excited to be on here today.
Good. For the benefits of people who don't know you, who is Harrison Paul?
Harrison Paul is an African descent, Irish raised, artist, Pan-Africanist from, living in the UK at the moment. Funny enough, I'm actually born in the UK, but I was raised in Ireland. So I identify a lot more with being Irish, if I can say, and of course, coming from an African home. So yeah, Pan-Africanist and an artist.
Okay, thank you. There's so many avenues to go down here.
Yeah.
So many. So first of all, tell me about being a Pan-Africanist.
Mind you, I want to just tell you, it feels so. I think this is my first time hearing a Liverpoolian. Is that what it's called? With an African Liverpoolian. So this is a very special moment for me right now because it feels like, whoa, I'm actually hearing this. I'm used to hearing it from Jamie Carragher, so hearing it from you now feels like a whole new experience. But what is it? It's basically that, it's the fact that you can be a Liverpool. Is it Liverpoolian? Is it Liverpool? What is it? A Scouser. Scouser. You can be a Scouser. I can be an Irishman. And there can be another, African American. There can be many people, whether even Jamaica. And but we all understand that we do have a shared experience and a shared history. And one of the things that's not that we deny, how we've integrated into certain societies, but we remember, I guess, what we lost on the journey. And a lot of us lost something. And I think, especially the Irish, have a very good history with trying to retain that history and what they lost. So it's just that, as an African, you're kind of holding on to and just trying to kind of, I want to say, restore what was lost through historical events.
Okay. In terms of the diaspora, which country of origin within Africa?
I'm Congolese and Zimbabwean.
Okay, Congolese and Zimbabwe. Welcome.
Thank
And
you.
as I'm listening to you talk, is there an American influence there as well?
So I was living in how do you call it, in Toronto for quite some time, probably like 3 or 4 years. So I think my accent just faded because, like yourself, I remember people used to tell me I can't even understand what you're saying. I had one friend in particular when because I went to America first. I went to Los Angeles. I was there for like 3 months, tried to move there permanently. It didn't really work out, but I remember I had a friend who we ended up moving together, to from Los Angeles to Toronto. And I remember one time we were recalling how we first met or whatever. Just one of those nights we're just chatting. Telling you now, he was Turkish. I could never understand what you were saying. It was a funny moment. Like he was now almost coming out clean and saying, I could never understand what you were saying. But yeah.
And in terms of Ireland, whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in Dublin. There's the outskirts of Dublin. It's in between. It's Kildare, but it's not really the depths of Kildare. It's Kildare, a little bit of, towards Dublin. So I kind of had like the influence from the inner city, if I can say, Dublin, the main city of Ireland, capital. But then I also kind of had that benefit of having a slightly countryside life where you're kind of away from the thick of things. So I actually quite liked that. I'm only realizing that I don't know if I mentioned that it's Zimbabwean and Congolese. So those are the two diasporans. Yeah.
So in terms of being raised in Kildare, stroke Dublin, how was it for you? How were you received or embraced?
This is something I'm so passionate about because as you grow, in your understanding of people, in your discernment, you better understand how your environment shaped you and what was really in front of you. So, with that being said, this is why when I do my work, I totally understand why a lot of people don't see where I'm coming from a lot of the times because they're kind of like, oh, I'm fine. My environment didn't negatively shape me, But I think it takes a level of discernment to understand. And I was funny, actually, just today I was having a conversation with somebody because I'm actually a personal trainer as well. And he was asking me, oh, what's personal training like, And he was thinking about getting into it. And I said, personal training can be awesome. But the negative side of personal training is that you're with somebody who you've never met from anywhere, and now you're going to be spending 45 minutes to an hour with them at least once a week. So it's like a new friend. It's almost like blind dating. You've just been put in this space because maybe they saw your physique and they said, okay, I want him as a PT. And it was like an instant decision and they signed up with you. But now the reality of the differences of your characters are now it's coming to how well do these two people really gel together over a course of time. And I was describing to him what that can be, the positives and the negatives sometimes. And he goes, that sounds a little bit like when you're on a date with someone and you really want this person to like you because you are the one who's selling the product. And then you're hoping that they like you. And then you kind of feel like you're just throwing everything at it so that person can kind of stay with you and want to take things further with you. And I said, that's a brilliant way to put it. Even as I say that reminds me of when I was younger, and we all have that experience of someone who we probably went on a date with when we were younger. We thought about dating, and we didn't realize how much. Only when we look back in hindsight with some maturity, how much we gave ourselves, and that person was really not for it. But we were so, I want to say, not discerning enough to see this is a situation you should exit, not pursue and see can I convince this person of my worth and my value, right? And then you find yourself being a people pleaser. That's when we have people pleaser, all sorts of things. So I think like when it comes to African people in general and in our experience, it's like we don't really realize how that shaped us. So it's in my maturity, I'm realizing, man, so that way I behaved like this way I behaved like that, this was shaped by my environment. Or when I was running from who I was as an African. So who I am now, I believe it's so much more of a freer person because there's little elements to who I am as an African that I was once ashamed of. And I've gotten back that power with being able to own that. And one of the things for me, I'll sign off on this, is I'm a very expressive person. I'm very expressive. Maybe I'm a little bit loud. It's just my nature. And as you know, African homes, sometimes I remember we had a friend in particular, and his uncles will always come to the house, and we'd always make jokes about you can't tell whether they're fighting in there or they're actually getting on. You know what I mean? Because the noise is so much. And it's something we used to be ashamed of in particular spaces because maybe Europeans don't express themselves the same way we do. So I always wanted to kind of shrink myself so I'm not laughing too loud and being so expressive. And I found myself saying, okay, I was running away from certain stereotypes, and now I can be that. And I, like I said before, I go where I'm loved. If someone pulls a funny face of, oh, who's this loud African? I say, excuse me, bye. I keep moving. So it helps you kind of navigate life a lot better. But I only understand this now rather than in hindsight.
Can I ask, Harrison, how old are you?
I'm 29 now.
You're a baby.
Yeah, I know.
You're a baby.
I know.
It seems like you found your footing because you speak about being proud and not being ashamed. Because we have the pressures of society which says
Right.
this is wrong, this is negative, this is not
Right.
acceptable, and you've pushed against that.
Yeah. Thank you.
That must take courage.
And you know what it is, Inka? Like, it definitely comes down to the reason why I'm happy to be a part of a podcast now that's talking about men's mental health. And today I was just discussing with a friend of mine about it was when I got to the bottom of the bottom in my mental health. This was instantly something I was like, I want to do this. Because when I got to the bottom, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of, I want to say, confidence in my surrounding. And now, unfortunately, I turned to God and I turned to prayer. But now in the midst of the events that took place in my life, that where I found myself in this position, there was nobody around. And in the midst, and that was a really important place for me to be, to feel like, I don't know whose opinion of me I could trust, or I don't know, you know what I mean? And these are the things that kind of play in your mind. Oh, they're probably talking about me. They probably heard this and that about me. They're probably talking down on me. And it was in there that I actually kind of formed well, it's done now. If they're saying something, they said it. If they're believing something, they believe it. If they want to think something, they're going to think it. And it was there I kind of built that courage to even, go on and do what I do now, because I kind of feel like they've said it all about me, at this point, and that's where that courage comes from, that I have now.
So tell me, let's dive in then. Harrison, what's in your hurt locker?
That's what, if I never even realized that was the name of that was the meaning of the name of the podcast. That's really clever, actually, mind you. That's really clever. What is in my hurt locker? Oh, what's okay? Number one, my son. My son. I'm going through a difficult situation, trying to fight to be in my son's life. So I'm being open
How old
already.
is he?
He's 6 years old now.
Okay.
He's 6 years old. Yeah. And yeah, this is probably the number one in my hurt locker.
Do you see him often?
Nowhere near often enough.
Can I ask where his mum is and your son?
His mom is in Toronto. His
Okay.
mom is in Toronto. Yeah, his mom is in Toronto. He's in Toronto. So on top of the complications within the relationship, there's also complications. There's obviously the distance as well, that's making it even harder for me. So yeah, the odds are stacked. I feel as though they're stacked against me in this situation.
What keeps you driving through, pushing through on a day-by-day basis then with regards to your son?
So the pain of my son, because it's so funny. I always said to myself, you know, I love I loved children. Everyone knew me. Like, even with my friends, when we started getting towards the age of 19, and the friends who were girls who had babies young, like I'd be all over that baby. You know what I mean? Like, that was like when my cousins had babies when they're a bit older. Like, I'd be like, leave them with me whenever you like. I loved babies, and when I finally had my own, the feeling that this was happening to me felt so unfair. It's like, this is when I loved baby so much, but now when it's mine, I finally get to have mine. The one that's gonna look up to me and call me dad and all this kind of stuff. It's like I'm caught in this mess, and it just felt so unfair. It felt like a miscarriage of justice, because if I know anybody, I wanted to be there as much as I can from my son, 24/7. So much so I almost, subjected to myself to a relationship that I just think that we were not meant to be together.
Yes.
But I was willing to be in that, even though my elders were saying, it's best that you guys do it co-parent separately. I was willing, because I just wanted to be around my son as much as I could be. And so after that, I was so depressed, to a place where I just wanted to give up. I felt like giving up, and I just felt, maybe hard done by God and all this kind of stuff. But I have to say, I was 21 years old, 22, I think 23 when he was born. What should I say? 22 conceived, 23 when he was born. So I had a lot of flaws, my lifestyle. I was still a young pothead, and different stuff I was doing. But nonetheless, I still felt like my heart was great, and I had lots to offer this young man. And I'm so happy that I grew now, because I felt God was telling me, listen, I'm going to use this pain. Let's not waste this crisis, right? Let's use this pain. So obviously, I explained to you, he's at a far distance, and I feel like my hands are tied. So then it shaped me in a magnificent way. And I'll give you an example. From a guy who loved to go out and enjoy going out every single weekend, now the fact that I I had this emptiness of like, how can I be going out when I have a son who's not near me? So this shame and this guilt kind of weighed heavy on me where I wouldn't even go out. I felt guilty about enjoying myself to any degree because it was like, my son is somewhere and here I am partying or here I am, whatever. So I kind of then went into this space where I was like, okay, I'm not his dad, but let me almost like your manager wants to sub you on. You're gonna get subbed at a halftime. You feel like you should have started the game. You can't
Yes.
complain with the gaffer, but when I get on at halftime or at the 70th minute, I'm gonna grab a goal. And that's been my mindset now, where it's like I'm gonna show you from when I get on the 70th minute that you should have started me long time ago. So I went on a place of working on myself and prayer and everything and changing my ways and how I think and how everything to a place where I completely and utterly, exceeded, what I even thought was the normal level of what a dad should be. I wanted to be now the perfect dad that when I eventually get to reunite myself with him, he'll look at me and say, my dad is probably one of the most honorable men. And I wanted to have that. So that's been my drive of like I said, when I get on, I'm a hurt subbed player. I'm a hurt Solskjaer. When I get on, I'm gonna probably bang in a hat trick in these last 70 minutes.
I'm assuming that you must have had some of those demons in your head whereby, because of the distance, because you don't see your son 24/7, that it feeds in and reinforces those stereotypes about black men, about being fathers, about being absent fathers.
Yinka, that's probably the one that single-handedly destroyed me. That was the one that destroyed me. And that was the one that isolated me. Because now, when, I love my son, I love him so much where, I always say this, I can't help but have him as my screensaver. He's my screensaver. Especially that I don't have him near, I just love to, when I pick up my phone, in a weird sense, it's like he almost gives me a joy every time I pick up my phone. It's literally that. And he's a screensaver. But with that, if I ever leave my phone around, especially being a PT, and someone says, "Oh, your son, oh, how old is he? What school is he in?" You assume, and it's like, oh, I have to tell him he's in Toronto. Now he's looking like, oh, you one of them black dads who just throwing seeds and then moving around, and I'm like distraught because I'm like, this is not me. This is not, I'm so angry. This is not me. I could just remove his picture and not have anybody ask any questions. So I'm torn because I love to see him, but at the same time, I'm like, and I hate that exactly. And that was exactly the one that made me so depressed and so angry because this is not fair. This should not be attached to my name. I want to be there for my son morning, noon, and night. I want to read him a bedtime story. I want him to say, Dad, I had a bad dream. I'm the first person he came to say. I want to drop him off at school. I want to be the one to pick him up. I want to talk to his teachers and have a chat and get to know him on a deeper level, how he interacts with other kids. I want to be in every aspect of this young boy's life. And it's like now I've been boxed into the black father, and it's disheartening.
Do you have hope that things may change in the future?
I have hope because it's all I have. I have hope because it's all I have. And and I always write him letters. I write him letters. I write him letters, and in the letters, I always write to him and I say, because I know he'll read it when he's old, and I say, I thank you for everything. I thank you for being my drive every day to be better and better and better and better. Never once did I just say, all right, I'm leaving this
Tell me,
team. I'm gonna go.
you said before
Yeah,
you felt like giving up.
yeah,
When we talk about giving up, I'm reading between the lines. And was that to end your life?
yeah, 100%. 100%. It was and you're probably going to ask this question next, but it was my mother. Categorical. That's why, and I write this in the letters to him as well. I actually write this as well. I remember when I would say it, and I would like, I'd be having my mental breakdown, and I'd be like, I want to just die. I want to just kill myself. I want to throw myself in front of a train, and I was trying to psych myself up to do this. Like I really wanted to do this, and And my mom would say to me, which was the only thing that would touch me, because at this point I had lost hope in my dreams, music, aspirations. And this was the only thing that would touch me. And my mom would turn on and say to me, whatever you're facing now, these adolescents, your son is going to have to face these as a man, young man.
100%.
And if you quit and bail out on this life, he's going to get to hit your age, 21, 22, 23, and he's going to be looking for a voice that can be a guiding voice to say, don't worry about this. I went through this. You're over panicking about this, or you're doing this and this and that. And because of your selfish act, he won't have that voice, that person that could be there to help him from a male perspective. And that would be the only thing that would I would literally sober when she said that. Going back when I was sober, I was thinking, I lived for him. I lived for 21-year-old him. I said, you're right. He's going to be thinking it's all, and I want to comfort him, especially I was feeling betrayed in this world. I was feeling a sense of betrayal from people. And I was like, you're essentially betraying him as well.
Yes.
He's there so he can, even when the world betrays him, his dad will never betray him, and he can feel that his dad never betrayed him. And that was what helped me. It was literally that thing of it's not about me.
Harrison, living in Ireland, and we've had a number of Irish comedians, etc., guests come on the Hurt Locker, and we know the high incidences of suicides. Have you been impacted yourself, directly or indirectly, by suicides?
So, yeah, and that's why this story gets even deeper. My brother, on a technical level, I have to call him my stepbrother, but he's my brother. His father, my mom was really young. She was 23, funny enough. His father committed suicide when she was pregnant with him, with my brother, my eldest brother, who's now in his 40s. And I think that's why that sentence kind of hit home, because my brother has often expressed to us that empty feeling that he has of having to imagine him. And everyone always tells him that the dad was so good, was a lovely man, wonderful man, actually was a youth leader in his church, the pastor and all that kind of stuff. And the reason he actually, I won't get into that today, but it was like he actually committed suicide because he felt like he failed as a person, as a pastor, as a leader. And he decided to go and do that. And really, we look back on it, no failure is really that worth of you losing your life. But, when I think I was able to instantly attach it to my brother in that moment and think of that's a real thing right into my brother's grown age. It's not just a small boy who's looking for his daddy. It's a grown man who I can tell it's a missing piece to who he is, that he will forever have a question mark on that side. And the more he finds out how much he's like his father, looks like his father, and the more every time he has a child, I think my brother's now on his fourth child, I'm sure that gnawing feeling is, I wish my dad could hold this child today, So, yeah.
How has that impacted you, knowing what your brother has been through?
Like I said, it just kept me going. It inspired me. It inspired me to do it, because it wasn't like he'll be all right, kind of, he'll figure it out. I can have in real time. I can have in real time in it a manifestation of that hurt and that pain, and even that emptiness. We believe that Christ could, obviously, help my brother restore, heal him in regards to his broken heart and whatnot. But if I guess he could still make a decision today, he'd still say, I'd love to know who he was and have that there. So it's kind of made it into a reality for me rather than just like a story, rather than the story.
Do you know that if you've been bereaved and or affected by suicide, you're 80 to 300% higher than the general population to in turn die by suicide?
Wow. I believe that, even as you say it. I believe that even as you say it.
Do you and your brother talk about your mutual mental health struggles or challenges?
I love it because, like I just said to you there, There's attributes to my brother, and here I am getting very personal. I think you'll be all right with this because the testimony is important. There's attributes to my brother where being an expressive person or a sharing person or an open person, specifically with me and my other brother, we're all brothers, I could tell there was this maybe barrier, and I feel that the barrier had something to do with just that, I guess that uh, coping mechanism that he formed from this part of his life. And it's only now that we come through seasons where now we're able to kind of we're so close, and we have like checkup calls, and we'll express the challenges he's facing at this time, and I'll express the challenges I'm facing at this time, and now we're a whole lot more expressive about what we face, what we're now facing. But like I said, it's another victory for us as brothers because I can vividly see him now finding it easier to be open and come out and be more vulnerable and not kind of pretend like everything's okay. And
Yes.
I think he kind of maybe over time had to build this like, I don't care, I don't mind, and I don't mind, I'm fine, I'm okay. And he can express to me little things like about the challenge of being a man, which he never had a man to kind of say, hey, dude, I went through this. Don't worry about this. You've seen this. It looks like it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I had this moment that looks like it's the end of the world. Don't hate yourself for this, but do better here. Try better here. Uh, yeah. So, and even him as an older brother, obviously he's in his 40s, I'm 29. Then now in turn being that for us as his younger brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also a special thing that's coming into relationship quite recently, where I can look to him and say, bro, relationship problems. How do you deal with this as a man? What do you do when you feel this? What do you do when you feel that? And it's very valuable to receive that from him.
Can I just say it's so refreshing. You are so warm and open, and it's easy just to talk with you. And I don't know what it's like in terms of the Black communities in Ireland, but
Mm,
in the UK, the Black communities talking about mental health, talking about thoughts of suicide, there's very much a stigma around it.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
a taboo. We don't
yeah,
talk about them things.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm an advocate of we need to talk more. We need to
Mm-hmm,
talk about what's going on with
mm-hmm,
our demons, etc.
mm-hmm,
And I get a sense that you're already doing that naturally.
mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that.
So tell me, I'm going to deep dive more then. When
Yeah,
you spoke about your mum, were
yeah.
you raised by your mum and your dad?
I was raised by my mom and my stepfather,
Okay,
who's like my dad. Yeah.
okay.
Well, not
And
like my dad. I'm just being specific.
yes, yeah, yeah. Do you speak to your biological dad?
I do. Fortunate enough, we again with this whole concept of just valuing people and not taking life for granted, and that's an important part that I see with him and I. I just want to value my loved ones, and take them for who they are, and have no regrets later on, isn't it?
You took the word, you used the word then. What does love mean to you?
Love is patient. It's kind. It does not keep a record of wrongs. It is forbearing. Uh, it's yeah. It goes the full mile with people. It goes the whole mile with people, and some. You know, that's love. It's understanding. Yeah.
You went somewhere then as you were talking. How many times have you been in love?
Too many times. But then, like I said, my missus always makes a joke with me because I'm an artist as well. So I write songs, right? And now I've become very kind of, I want to say, what people would call deep and political and whatnot. So even my music choice now, I'm finding it hard to, you know what they say, like ignorance is bliss in a sense. Like, I'm obviously now more in love than I've ever been being engaged and to be married. But just my mind is now so occupied by the problems in the world, and I now want to write music that pertains to that and that kind of heals that and speaks to that, and I feel like it's something that, like, I'm like a mountain. I'm like, if I could write a song that touches this would be a massive, massive song. Whereas beforehand, I was in these puppy loves, and they were like, it took up my whole life, whole day. You know what that is, and I obviously had loads of songs to write about it. So she's kind of like, so what is it now with me? I don't get any songs, like, and it's like, but it's a compliment because in my most deepest form, in my most matured form, now with a little bit more discernment, all those things. I'm not naive. This is the love that I choose. This is the love I feel is the best love. But then at the very same time, you know, it's like you're getting someone who's thinking about, world problems and how we can heal world problems. But yeah, no, love for me is, I've always, I guess, maybe kept coming from a loving mother, and who was very giving with her love. I just was ready to give that to people, and I was kind of like a hopeless romantic in many ways.
You spoke about geopolitical stuff. Whereabouts in the country are you living now?
I'm in Essex, Chelmsford.
Okay, so okay, maybe a heartland question. What's your take on all the Union Jacks then? And no doubt you will have seen them.
I'm so happy you asked me this. And you talk about me being open. I'm saying you're open because this is good that you're asking these questions. These are important questions to ask. Um, you can only imagine, I'm a PT in a, I want to say, predominantly white area. It's not Birmingham anyway, according
No,
to
it's not.
Robert
Robert
Jenrick.
Jenrick. Yeah.
No, yeah, there's a lot of, he'll be happy with Chelmsford. There's a lot of more majority white faces. He'll be happy with that. And you bond with those people, and you get to connect with them, and then you get to have conversations about these things that are happening in the news. And I'm having great conversations about the Union Jack and whatnot. And I honestly genuinely feel that, even we have the Gary Neville who came out with a statement the other day, and like, I honestly feel like, he obviously, as everyone knows, the Union Jack in and within itself is not it shouldn't be a symbol of what it is becoming. It's not a problem when the England is in the Euros, and then everyone's walking around with England jerseys. I quite like that energy when it's warm and everyone is expecting for us to go through to the next round, and there's England jerseys, flags everywhere. It's probably the one time in the year everyone just feels united. Like when you walk down the high street, you can just feel that sense of like united, and it's all under the Union Jackson, the St. George's flag. So, and I always say, it's like, as soon as winter comes, everyone's miserable, like, hey, how are you? You know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, barely waving at you on the street again. But then during that time, so like, the Union Jack and any flag can bring people together. It can mean that. And Gary Neville said it really well, because I have 85 caps for my country, and for ages I've never seen the Union Jack flown. Why is it so important to fly it now? And when it's used in that way, it can become dangerous. But then I will sign off on this, which is, a lot of that right wing politics can get us hooked up on majoring on minors. And I think that's the whole concept of politics. And I'm very into dissecting politics and going into it. I just really felt like it was trying to major on minors. And I wouldn't mind giving a Union Jack that victory, or a flag flyer, or a roundabout painter that victory, because I know I'm gonna have to go head to head with you in other places, like where it matters, like the workplace, like other places like that. And if you want to fly a flag, I'm not gonna spend time arguing with you about taking the flag down or whatever. Though I appreciate the white British people who can be like, hey, don't send a message out that doesn't represent me as a native British person, don't do that, and I respect that totally, totally. But for me, I just kind of felt like, yeah, they want us to major on minors. But yeah, I still very much have an opinion on it.
I think for me, it's important that we have those conversations. I think, sadly, the flag has been weaponized.
It is, yeah.
And I can hark back to the 70s, early
Mm-hmm.
80s,
Mm-hmm.
and how it was utilized, how it was depicted,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting for me in Liverpool seeing it spring up in certain areas. And there isn't, I think people have become emboldened. I think there's a brazenness about it. But let's have a conversation about why you need to put that flag up. What's its significance? Because I know that you're disenfranchised. I know that the billionaire people who you were standing behind don't care about you. They don't care
Exactly.
about you.
Exactly. Exactly.
But there needs to be, from all sides, there needs to be critical thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is going on here?
Yeah. 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 And you know what? For that reason, you're so right. Like if it can bring the conversation back to, like, even the Gary Neville thing has gone, crazy. And it's like, we need to, if we can bring the conversation, and that's what I like about politics. It brings the conversation where it needs to be. Everyone's like, why are you bringing up race? Why are you bringing up race? But there's things, like I said, even me connecting with people from this area, you end up leaving a conversation with a person from a completely different background to yourself, a white British person, and you come to this common ground where I'm understanding him and he's understanding me better, and we're both understanding this whole facade a lot better. And it's like, wow, that was really healthy, actually, because not only does he now know my experience as a black person, which he never would have understood, I now understand how he's coming from, where he would have never seen it like that because he's never had to experience it. And then, there's beauty in that. And also, I wanted to say something to you, because I think about this all the time. Obviously, I can hear in your accent, you've been here for quite a long time. And I'm not sure if your grandparents or parents would have been in the Windrush generation, but what,
Well,
what,
the Nigerian,
you're Nigerian, right?
so no Windrush here.
Okay, well, and don't mind me asking, how old are you? Because you called me a baby.
I'm twice your age.
Lovely stuff. So nonetheless, that's still what I mean. You've been in Britain for quite a long time, right? You've been here. You've seen all the different waves of things, and there's something to say for that. That's why I'm now learning to respect you guys. Because if we think we're dealing with something, you guys dealt with something. So you're kind of, it is actually a responsibility, to look back, and maybe even Neville can be in that space where it's like, are we really going back to what happened to our brothers and sisters back in, the 60s, or, are we really doing that again? You know what I mean? Like, we had to witness that, you had to experience that, um, we can't go back there. So I think for me, like, and this is why I'm humbled again, because I'm like, oh no, majoring on minors, and people are like, people black people say, well, we don't care about race, or we don't care about race, but it's like, there's so much people who fought for these
Absolutely.
things not to be the way that they are. And we can't disregard your efforts of everything you've walked to be to where we are. And in the click of a finger, people want to take us back there. You're like, no, 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 no. I'm twice Harrison's age. I did not walk all this way and fight all this way so we can just in the click of a finger go back, to Robert Jenrick saying, I'm sick of seeing, faces that are not white in an area.
Yeah. Just
Your
one
hard
last
work
thing.
is being pissed down the drain. Oh, excuse me. Essentially, yeah.
Okay, just one last thing on the flag. When you
Mhm.
see the flag, does it intimidate you? Does it scare you?
It's funny. I was cycling to work in the morning. I saw the flag for the first time. I saw the flag at the back of someone's car, and it was like a construction worker, and he'd pulled into the gas station. So he just quickly, and I saw the flag at the back of his car, and that was my first time to actually really think about it. And I'm being so honest with you, it was in although it was a bit of out of sight, out of mind for me a little bit. And it was in that moment, that was about a couple of weeks, maybe 2, 3 weeks ago. And it was in that moment that I realized if I was to go into that gas station and look at that person face to face, I now feel less welcome. I now know what this person feels about me. So if I have to be honest, I'm a Pan-Africanist. You know, I study this subject whole, it's my life. So I'm ready to take those people on head on. You know what I mean? Because I know my history. I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not, and this is not me trying to be too macho, but I know for a fact that if I wasn't a Pan-Africanist who thinks about Black rights and all that kind of stuff, I'd feel the pressure of, oh well, how can I be accepted by this person? You know, but even as a Pan-Africanist, even as a, you know, person who fights against racism, in that moment, I kind of said, imagine I had to, because I go past the gas station. I said, imagine I had to actually see that guy. And, you know, it was a typical probably construction worker. You know, we know what demographic that is, and sometimes they can be a demographic of people that it feels intimidating to us, if I can say. And
Yes.
so I kind of said to myself, if I had to look him in the eye in the gas station, I'd probably feel intimidated by this person. That was me kind of having an honest moment of like, yes, I understand the dangers of this flag, of these flags.
But on the flip side as well, because you are a PT instructor, I'm I'm looking at you thinking, yeah, you're healthy. You look healthy. Then there's always going to be a second thought in that construction worker's mind about whether or not to give you two barrels.
You know what? People say that to me all the
Would that be
time.
fair?
People say that to me all the time. People say that to me all the time. And I think, I don't know, you know, I don't know, but yeah, I get that. I've gotten that joke a couple of times actually. But yeah, maybe I guess it. Unfortunately, we live in a superficial world, so I guess so.
Harrison, can I ask? I think I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Who's the most important person in your life?
Most important person in my life is my fiance, and yeah, I guess I feel guilty again not saying it's my son. My son is, because like they say, who's supposed to be more important, your wife or your child? You know what they say, like your wife is there with you until the end. Your kids will grow up and make their own life. So you know, I am my wife is like my other half. She's like my my right arm, my whatever. So caring for her and making sure I uplift her and all that kind of stuff, and making sure that, you know, like your right foot, you don't want your right foot to be cut off. You know, you want your right foot to be as healthy as your left foot, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
there's that element to my life, and then of course, then my son will come next, and then of course my mother.
Okay. What if I said your answer is wrong? What if I said the most important person in your life is you because
So
you're the expert of you? You know what
that's
makes yourself happy. You know what makes yourself sad. And only by attending to your needs first and foremost can you be fully there for the people who are important in your life. And imagine this. Imagine if you took care of business for you first and foremost. Imagine how much more richer and textured and layered that love and care would be for your fiance, for your son, for your mother, for all those important people in your life.
And I think that's the, you know, you corrected me. I think that's the concept of like what I said when it came to like wanting to be with my son and wanting to be with my son and feeling I was hard done by not being in my son's life. And then you kind of realize, okay, what can I do now? I can, you know, take the responsibility of my own life and really pour into that and become the best person for my son, right?
Absolutely.
The best person for my wife to be, you know. So that's a true statement. Yeah,
Do you embrace it fully?
I embrace it. I embrace it because my working on myself is my most important project, and
Good.
I definitely like becoming surrendered unto God, becoming a guy who, you know, assessing myself and looking inward and seeing what is not right about me and what could be better, and also not allowing people to undermine me and having that strength and that confidence. so I can, I can be strong as well as I'm being humble. I can be strong. And then, so that's so important to me because I realize now I'm more of an asset to the people around me.
Absolutely. Are you into football?
I love football. I use football analogy way too much.
Okay. So, Zim versus Congo, they're in the World Cup final. Who do you support?
That's such a good question. That's such a good question. That's just going to be a tough day on now because my lady is Congolese as well. So it's just going to be a tough day because she's going to have me supporting Congo as well. I was raised in a Zimbabwean home. My stepfather is Zimbabwean as well. So, I think, yeah, I would lean towards them, but then there'll be a part of me that's like, I don't want to see any brothers, the brothers from Congo crying at the end of the game when it's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see anyone go outside that day. But so I'll just be like, I probably walking in and out the room, just popping in to see, the scoreline or whatever.
Okay, you sat on the fence there then. Okay. Zim versus Ireland in the World Cup final.
That's such a good question, man. That's such a good question. And I guess it's the question that people are asking of Thomas Tuchel, isn't it? Does he celebrate against Germany on the World Cup final? This is the question people are asking. And I guess it's like the same thing, isn't it? It feels like the same thing. It's like, this is your, I don't know, you've been adopted by this nation, uh, so it's a tough one. So I guess I have to be completely fair. Specifically for Ireland, I'd say there is I don't know how to answer that question. I'm being so honest. I want to say like Zim, but then I can't like Congo. I can't say I won't sit there and think to myself, "Oh, poor Ireland." They were so close, and knowing how long it's taken us to get here, and all the background with how long it took us, and I can't say I wasn't upset when Thierry handled that ball, ages ago. So there's that element to it.
What have you got in the pipeline? What projects?
So I'm continuous at the moment now. I'm moving more into Christianity in regards to how it has been used and manipulated in specifically with Christian nationalism. So as you can see, even the conversation around the flags and all that kind of stuff, it's like we need this to be a Christian country. These people don't even care two stuffs about what the Bible actually says how to live. But now we have the Tommy Robinsons who are saying it can't be Muslim, it has to be Christian. So okay, I didn't know you were a Christian. Yeah, I know. I go by Christian values. We're a Christian country. This is America Christian. This is UK Christian. But it's being used, to weaponize. And then worse off, there actually are people who are in church. We know Tommy's not in the church, but who are in church who will then see the likes of Tommy or those leaders say, Christian, you say, yes, fantastic. They want to bring Christianity back to the world. And you're hoodwinked by that, feeling like this is a positive thing for the Christian realm. And I'm kind of like, hold on. This is, first things for, we cannot allow our brand to go with any wind and doctrine like that. We have to know what are our founding morals and values as Christians, right? And then if this aligns with that, and not just because someone is not LGBT or not because someone is, wants abortion, but actually like the core of our heart, our values, humility. You asked me today, what is love? Love is patient, love is kind, does it align with these things? And if it does, that's when we embrace it, we endorse it, because many people will use God because it's this superior, entity where it's like, how do you contend with God? God made me do this. God told me to say that you deserve to be in the rut. God told me that I can treat you and speak to you like this. And then it kind of just cleanses any sin, So that's at the moment when I'm really passionate about rectifying that, because it's just, it's just stirred up something in my spirit. So I'm using my podcast, Let's Talk Racism, down that direction in this series, on the second episode of the series at the moment. And then music. music. I have a single that's in the oven at the moment. Just getting mixed and mastered, and hopefully it'll be out before the year is out. It's actually a love song
Okay.
for
Beyonce
the.
will be happy.
She's happy. She's in the video. She's starring in it actually. It's to go in line with my engagement that we recently had. I wanted to kind of mark it with a little song, not a little song, but a song and a video. So yeah, I guess it's just I just thinking of one thing at a time, which is can I touch people with this message, and then whatever comes after that, only God knows.
One final question.
Mm-hmm.
We finished on the Hurt Locker. You switch up the screen. There's a knock at the door, and it's 9-year-old Harrison Paul. What do you say to him?
I don't know if you kind of like giving some Morgan Freeman vibes. I don't know if it was your voice, but I almost felt tears want to flood to my. I felt tears want to flood to my. You know what? That's why my son means so much to me, because he looks exactly like me. His character, his everything. And there's a little boy, actually, I seen him even again last night, cycling home from work. He's a little boy who lives around my area, and he just reminds me so much of me when I was his age. He's 14, he has a little flat top, a Will Smith flat top, and he's a little bit chunky as well. And I was a little bit chunky, and he's so short. And I took a liking to him. I buy him a sweet or something whenever I see him, because I just see myself in him, and this is what it is. And the same thing I feel for my son, of why I'm so motivated. I spoke about this a second ago, where I said that courage and confidence. Little Haribo, he wanted to please the people, wanted to be accepted by people. He was a people's person. He loved community. He loved, if like a companionship, but at the expense of his own self-respect, and didn't have the capacity to. And then when people around him, and I said this at the beginning of the episode, when people kind of didn't understand his character, where maybe I was loud, I was expressive, and people would often make him shrink within himself. When he didn't get the response from people that he thought he wanted, where people would embrace his laughter or his joy. But sometimes people are like, oh, you too much. And what I want to give to that little boy, why I stop every time when I see him, and what I want to give to my son, is that unwavering self-belief that no matter who's going to say, oh, you know what, you're not my cup of tea, close that chapter and move on very quickly. Because what Harrison would go on to do is attempt to shape himself in a way that would be most uh, if I could say, palatable for people. But I still also had a burning desire to be myself. But then I found myself. I think that's why I turned to things like weed and drugs, because it was self-destructive. So
Yes.
I was now almost self-destructing, subconsciously self-destructing. Self-numbing, self-destructing, and then if I could just be high, you know, I wouldn't care what anybody really said around me, because I'm on Mars, So, and what I really had to do was actually just take away that importance in people's voices, rather than numbing myself and putting myself on Mars. I just had to take that voice and put the volume on it lower, and take that voice and put the volume on it lower, and then on that thing, I would then become just happy and have that peace of mind, you know. So that's exactly what I'd cover him, I'll shelter him, I'd tell him, boy, excuse me, they hating on you. Hello, Harry. They hating on you, Harry. They're not right about you. Don't believe them. Don't believe they have mean things in their hearts. They're bullies, and they don't have the best intent. They're not telling you this because it will make you better. They're not making comments about you because they really want to improve you. They just want to dim your light because they're unhappy people.
100%. Harrison Paul, you've been an excellent guest on The Hurt Locker. Thank you so much.
Yinka, you've been an amazing host. Honestly, you have such a soft spirit, and I was honored to have a conversation with you today, and especially an elder of the UK who has paved the way for us young Black people to even have the experience we have now. You guys you know, you guys crawled so we could walk. So yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.